who was the first in the 1940s to start talking about the divinity of Her Majesty, Empress Menen. And he argues that she really contributed to diversifying the doctrinal diversity of the Rastafari movement.
Miriam Lennox, 1930s, 40s.
1940s, yeah. She was at Pinnacle. He also talks about the fact that Tenor Powell, pictured here, Leonard Howell's wife, was instrumental in starting Pinnacle. So Pinnacle is the first, quote-unquote, first Rastafari commune, started end of 1930s, and really, beginning of 1940s. And she sold her pearls. So one of the things to know about Tenakau is that normally we talk about Rastafari as just being sort of majority poor black Jamaican people who came into Rastafari, but there were also brown class people who were coming into Rastafari even from the 1940s. So Tenakau was one of those. She was middle class or brown class, if folks understand the color scheme in Jamaica. She comes from a well-to-do family, and so she had pearls that she sold to buy the land at Pinnacle. So Sistren, in terms of our financial contributions to the movement, have always contributed in sustaining and maintaining the Rastafari collective. And then the rest of this has like some Sistren who are talking about the importance of Rastafari women and at Pinnacle. This is Mama Iron, who lived at Pinnacle. When I interviewed her in 2017, she was in her 90s. She has since passed. Dave Dunkley, who wrote the book Rastafari in the early years, also interviewed Mama Iron for his book. And she talks about her experiences of what Sistren were actually doing at Pinnacle, not only contributing financially to the founding of Pinnacle, but Tenakau was a political force, contributing to sustaining the actual Pan-African orientation of the movement through her letter writing campaigns to other Pan-African leaders at the time, as well as Sistren were instrumental in building the actual compound. They built the school, they built the houses, they they did what, according to Mama Aron, when you hear her interview, she says they did everything. And so this emphasis that Sistren somehow were not present in the early years is completely false. And one of the things that Dave Dunkley also shows in his book with the founding of the African Reformed Church by Edna Fisher. Edna Fisher had already started her own women's prayer circle that led to the formation of the African Reformed Church in the 1950s. So she was already doing her work, met Claudius Henry, and then they formed the African Reformed Church. When Claudius Henry went to prison, yes, the peacemakers. When Claudius Henry went to prison because they tried to overthrow the Jamaican government, as some of us may or may not know, in 1959, because they wanted to overthrow the Jamaican government, give the country of Jamaica to Fidel Castro to manage, actually, so that he could give it back to the indigenous people of the island of Jamaica, and then repatriate all the black people back to Africa, was his idea. Wow. They were thwarted. The police caught them before they could execute their mission, and they found dynamite underneath Edna Fisher's bed. Edna Fisher says that wasn't her dynamite, but it was underneath her bed.
How'd that get there?
Right. But anyway, Claudius Henry went to prison for a very long time. Whilst he was in prison, Edna Fisher was instrumental in spearheading the African Reformed Church and growing that into the entity that people know today. So that's just a little bit of the sort of early history of Rastafari women. And that's one part of my work, is really trying to excavate this archival history of Rastafari women. And Dave Dunkley's book has been a really great resource for me to lead with more archival evidence than I had actually previous to his book being published. And so I encourage you to read his book. The other part of my work is on continental Africa. So I go to Ghana, I've gone to Ethiopia in the documentary that I'm going to show you, which hopefully we'll have time for. You will see sisters from Jamaica, Ghana, and Ethiopia talking about one, repatriation and the significance and importance of Africa in the lives of African women, because I found that theorizing Rastafari women through the lens of feminism or even through the lens of womanism doesn't fully get at what cisgen are actually doing. And so the term that I have come up with, which I would love to debate maybe in the question answer or answer questions about, is balanced liberty. And the reason why I have balanced liberty is because liberty is already supposed to be balanced. Yeah. That's the way that we live, right? But unfortunately, because of the history of Rastafari women being abused, being sexually assaulted, being humiliated, being denigrated, being erased, being forgotten, the liberty hasn't lived up to where it's supposed to be.